Yo, what's going on? Constellation Gaming here, and today is the release of Alestral's newest set, Firestorm. So with that, we're going to be starting a brand new series here on the channel that I call Brainstorming Firestorm, where until I'm capable of getting my hands on Firestorm cards, I'm just going to be theory crafting a bunch of decks and putting them pen to paper, and then putting them into a video. Obviously, all of these are just going to be theory and none of them are going to be play tested, so if you have any suggestions to make them a little bit better, I'm more than welcome to take them. Now with that, let's get into today's video of Lunar Nexus. Alright, so starting out the list, we have, of course, 3 copies of our Asterabbit. Asterabbit, always being able to search the top 3 cards of your deck and just pick the best one, always advantageous. I'm really not sure how this wasn't hit by the ban list, but that's not the point of the video, so I'm just going to make that statement and move on from that. Then we have 2 Fawnlet here. Fawnlet is here in order to search our Artemis. Elechic being hit kind of limits it. I would play 1 Elechic, 1 Fawnlet rather than playing the 2 Fawnlet. However, Elechic just got banned, so we're gonna move accordingly. So we're playing 2 Elechic in order to search out our Artemis. Our Artemis is extremely strong for a few different purposes. I mean, first and foremost, this is a Lunar Nexus deck, so we need a Nexus bank. And obviously, we're going to try to utilize the Divine. Artemis is also really strong in the fact that you can shut down opposing Zeus or Demeters if need be. So if they have that out, you can easily just utilize your Artemis so that way they can't attack over your guy in the next turn. And it can also suppress stuff like opposing stadiums, it can suppress opposing Alestrals if need be. Artifacts such as like a necklace, you can suppress that way its effect is not going off. And that way you can possibly attack over something that's enchanted by necklace. So there's a lot of different utilizations for Artemis in this deck that makes it an actually extremely strong card in my opinion. Then we've got 2 copies of Comalis. Comalis is here as a deck thinner and also the fact that it nexuses. This is Lunar Nexus, where we want as many nexusers as possible for another card later on down in the deck. The pterrosail here, we want to utilize its effect to burn as much as possible, so utilizing Comalis not only thins our deck in order to get targets that we have in the deck, it also just works really well with the pterrosail, so we can nexus for 2, burn for 2. So that's why that's there. Nemistar. This is also another Nexus guy that you can utilize with pterrosail, but this is also just an extremely strong card in itself because you can easily just Nexus to something and make it to where they can't be blocked, so that way you just go straight through for damage. It can be an instant 3 damage, and that can possibly win you the game in tight situations, or like just dealing 3 damage directly is pretty nuts, and being able to consistently do that every single turn, as long as you keep the nemistar out, is going to be really good. Got 3 copies of Specteris. This card is just really good for multiple reasons this set. I mean, it's just good because it shuts down anything with an ability. It's also good in this deck because we can search it with Comalis, that way it's just another deck thinning opportunity, and being able to search out a 5 is just really good. And then the other reason why Specteris is going to be really strong is because Like a Void Champion of Artemis is going to be a really prevalent card this set, so being able to play Specteris, because he'll summon out 2 other werepups that are suppressed, that will make Specteris a 7 attacker when he's attacking into the Like a Void, and Specteris can just go over Like a Void. Plus, he can also pair with your own Like a Void really well because you'll have the suppressed werepups. So now you have a 7 attacker if you have your Like a Void and your werepups out that you can play and search out with the Comalis. So that's a really strong interaction that Specteris will have in this upcoming set. Then we've got 3 copies of Werepup. This is here as a starter. It's here to find our full moons, and also because Champion of Artemis Lycovoid is extremely nuts. The ability to just drop a 6/5 and also 2 other Alestrals just for playing a 1-cost invoke rune that you don't even have to fully utilize is just insane to me. This card combo is just probably going to be splashed in almost every single deck as a small engine, and it works extremely well as in the Lunar Nexus engine, not only with the Specteris interaction, but you can also utilize your extra Werepups as a Nexus bank for any of your guys if you so desire. So that's there. And then we have 1 copy of Pterrosail. Pterrosail is going to be extremely strong as long as you can get him to stick on literally a turn or even 2. Because having all these Nexus guys, plus just the ability to Nexus himself, and just have the capability of burning for 3, possibly swinging for 5 if you utilize nemistar, not nemisail, my bad, is just an extremely strong effect that I think people might be overlooking, and I think this card is pretty good. Then we've got 1 copy of Pterrosail in the main. Honestly, this is just experimental. The Chromalis would normally go in here in a lot of decks like this, but I like Pterrosail. I feel like dropping a Pterrosail can easily just end the game in late game scenarios where they can't play a lot of stuff. So I think just Pterrosail is a good card that you can also search out with Chromalis. But if you feel the need to in the side deck, there's the Posthumous that is normally played in decks similar to this that you can just easily swap in and out for it. We've got 1 copy of Earthquake because it's Earthquake. Just unconditional removal is extremely strong, and in a set like this where you're going to be able to turbo out big guys like it's nothing, the ability to have uncontested and unconditional removal is extremely strong and needed in pretty much every single deck. Then you've got 2 copies of Lunar Phase Full Moon. This is here, it's got multiple reasoning. Obviously the Werepup Lycovoid interaction, that's there. We're playing Temple of the Moon, so we can utilize Full Moon as a combat trick, buff our guys up by potentially 2 spirits, so that way, like, an Eddie that was trying to attack over our Werepup as a 4 attacker now dies instead of utilizing that. Something along that lines. It's also utilized as a Nexus bank potentially, because you can utilize Lunar Phase Full Moon, just put spirits on, and then utilize one of your 5 Nexusers that you have in order to move the spirits around. And then, yeah. So it's got the 3 interactions there between the Werepup, the Temple, and the Nexusers that you can utilize it for. Plus also we have Ultra Stars, so if you're really desperate, you can utilize the 2 in tandem, I guess, and utilize that as a combat trick also. Excuse me. We've got our 2 copies of Artemis that we talked about earlier. 2 copies of Temple of the Moon. This is here because just we have a lot of spirits that we're going to be moving around, so buffing our guys for all of the spirits that we already are just going to be placing on them is just going to be more advantageous, and I think Lunar is going to be less prevalent with the exception of the Lycovoid engine being everywhere. I don't think Lunar is going to be as prevalent. So playing your own Temple isn't just going to be buffing your own guy or your enemy's guys. Then we've got our standard 3 copies of Ambrosia, 1 Laurels. We're playing 2 Altar because we're going to have a lot of spirits on board, so we're going to easily be able to take advantage of Altar. Plus Pterrosai's ability, we can take advantage of that a little bit more by utilizing Altar. Plus, if you look a little bit farther down, we're playing an Argo package. So utilizing these necklaces and the poison tunics, not just for the combat trick on the Argo cast, but also for a combat trick for the Altar is possible. So that's why we're running 2 Altars instead of the 2 PTAs in main deck or Tsunamis. We got 2 copies of Shield because, like I said, we're going to be turboing out big guys like it's nothing. So playing 2 copies of Shield is just going to be relevant and needed in almost every single matchup in the next set, I feel like. Argo is extremely strong. It's just going to be because the ability to just randomly give your guy +5, make like a void possibly an 11 attacker, is just going to be really good. I think Hurricane is going to see a resurgence, so maybe if Hurricane does actually see a resurgence like I think it will, the Argo package might get cut out due to the fact that Hurricane eats Argo alive. There's nothing that Argo can really do against Hurricane, so just if Hurricane is prevalent, just cut out the Argo. 3 copies of Gorgon's Gaze because it's a floodgate keeper. Like a lot of Alestrals and a lot of stuff, if you don't have the ability to stop their ability on the chain, you're just pretty much going to say GG, I lose. Like if Majursa's effect goes off, the champion Majursa, and they've got a few bears, they're destroying your entire board and swinging for a bunch. GG, you lost unless you have the Gorgons. So there's going to be a few decks like that where you're going to need Gorgons, plus Gorgons is just the best counter rune in the entire game to begin with. For our side deck, got 2 copies of Eddie just in case I feel like we need a little bit more help on the combat front. Eddie's extremely strong, but I think water decks and Galaxy inside of these water decks are going to be a little bit more prevalent, so that's why I wanted to put Eddie in the side, just for that reasoning. Got 2 copies of Nabi in the sideboard. This has multiple uses in this deck. Obviously, you can play Nabi out, 6 attacker, go boom. You can also utilize your 5 Nexus guys, 2 Nexus, 2 Nabi, to pretty much put their entire board to 0 attack. Plus, you have Full Moon plus Nabi to interact as a combat trick and give everything -2 at the drop of a hat. So Nabi is extremely strong, but if people are playing Lunar and they're very heavy into this Werepup package, or they're playing into the Solar packages that have been played recently, Nabi's not really going to do too much, so that's why it's a sideboard card in my opinion. We've actually got the whole Nabi line here with 1 copy of Doppelgator. Like I said, if we're not playing against a Lunar deck or a Solar deck, this can be extremely strong because we're pretty much all Lunar. So we don't have to worry about any negative effects from our Doppelgator, and we have the ability to receive a Lunar in a Nexus and just easily go into Fulgorix. And Fulgorix, like I said, it's going to be a very prevalent big guy meta. So just Fulgorix having the ability to have a Spirit Nexus to it and put a big guy back on the bottom of their deck, I think it's going to be very strong. And because we have so many actual Nexus potential, like ability to Nexus onto either Doppelgator or Fulgorix in this deck, I think it's actually going to be a lot more relevant than it was in prior sets due to that reasoning. Got the 1 Posthumous, like I said, just to replace Pharaohgeist. If you feel like just Pharaohgeist isn't really doing it, you can easily slot in the Posthumous and just become unaffected by counter runes and just pop guys with Artemis. Honestly, I think Posthumous might be a little bit better in the main deck, but like I said, this is just theory crafting, so I just wanted to see how that fit in. Got 2 copies of Hurricane, because Hurricane is just extremely strong, being able to just pop your guys' entire back row, especially since we're playing a decent amount of big guys ourselves. Being able to just pop their entire back row and say, whatever I want to do is going to happen this turn, is extremely strong in a deck like this, especially if we have Terrorstar out and a few Nexusers, we can literally just burn for 2, 5, 7 damage just by Nexusing if we have these guys out. And then we like drop Hurricane beforehand or something like that, that way they couldn't do it. There's a lot of different instances where Hurricane is just going to be extremely strong. Any Argo deck it's going to demolish. If we're trying to get our Posthumous or Fulgorix on board, it's going to do really well for. Then we've got 2 Cryoblast here because any types of 5s match up, and anything that's not Frost it's still going to be really strong against. I don't think Cryoblast is going to be as much of a staple this set because I think we're going to have the bigger guys. But I could be wrong, but also just if you run into 5s, it's a really nice card to have in the sideboard. 2 copies of Divine Blessing. This is going to be able to kill anything like Earthquake, Laurels, because we're going to have an abundance of spirits on board. Plus, if you see they're on the 1 copy of Rise that they can have now, or just if they're playing a bunch of heals, you can always target an Ambrosia late game if need be. Divine Blessing just has a lot of utility that I still feel like is going to be relevant in the next set, especially to prevent like your bigger guys from getting hit by removal. So I think this card is worth at least siding in your side deck. And then to finish off the side deck, we've got 2 copies of Poison Tipped Arrow. Poison Tipped Arrow, I think, is still an extremely strong card. We have 2 copies of each of these different counter runes, that way we can very easily just slot in Poison Tipped Arrow or 2 Hurricane for whatever we're doing. Just in case, just to make siding patterns a little bit easier, you go 2-2-2, and that way you can just bop bop. And removal, like I said, is just going to be extremely strong always, in my opinion. Even if you have to pay a decent amount for it, being able to out something and not have to worry about it anymore is just a lot better than like turning it sideways. So Poison Tipped Arrow is a good card, at least worth siding in my opinion. To the side deck, the spirit deck, we've got 2 Earth Spirits, 2 Levy Fins, we've got 2 Zaptors. I felt like without having Elichic or Zeus, we didn't really need nearly as many Zaptors, so just having the 2 to utilize our Rabbit if we see 2 of them, or possibly re-enchant our 1, that I felt like that was just a very comfortable amount. We've got our Frost Spirit here for our Cryoblast. I just realized that for some reason I did not put a Wind Spirit in here for the Hurricane, so doing that live like a professional. So we've got 1 Wind Spirit for the Hurricane, and then we've got 11 Lunar Spirits for the rest of the deck. I feel like that's a very comfortable number. Don't really think like anything's going to be lacking in this. But are you guys excited for Firestorm? What do you guys think of the deck? Let me know down in the comments below, and let me know if there's anything that you want to see me build from this upcoming set. I hope you all have a good day, and peace.